At this exact instant, a profound transformation is occurring within your personal energy field. I am not speaking in metaphors, nor am I using poetic language simply to grab your attention. A literal, scientifically measurable, and entirely physical shift is unfolding within the electromagnetic sphere that radiates several feet outward from your physical body. If you have found your way to this specific message, if a deep, inexplicable pull drew you to these concepts before you even understood what they meant, you must realize that this is absolutely no accident. It is, in fact, your own energetic signature recognizing and aligning with a vital frequency it has been desperately craving to receive. You see, there is a fundamental truth about the human aura that remains largely untaught and deeply misunderstood. The vast majority of people assume their energetic field only projects outward, acting merely as an emitter of moods or vibes. However, it functions fundamentally as a dynamic, two-way receiver. Imagine a highly calibrated antenna woven from pure, biospiritual light, extending directly into the vast expanse of the quantum web. This structure continuously magnetizes and draws in the exact information, relationships, circumstances, and synchronicities that resonate perfectly with whatever wavelength you are actively transmitting. Your auric field is not simply a glowing byproduct of your existence. It is what you are constantly tuning into. It serves as the primary instrument through which the universe continuously shapes and delivers your physical reality. For quite some time now, perhaps much longer than you would like to admit, this delicate internal instrument of yours has been emitting a signal that does not authentically reflect your true essence. I need you to hear this clearly. This discrepancy did not happen because you are fundamentally broken. It did not happen because you made a mistake or failed in your spiritual journey. Rather, your auric architecture has been navigating one of the most intense, rigorous, and deeply misunderstood stages of its entire evolutionary timeline. To the outside observer, and frankly, even to your own conscious mind, this period likely felt like a profound dimming of your inner spark. It felt like being inexplicably muted, as if a dense, invisible wall had been erected around your spirit. This barrier seemingly blocked your authentic vibrational signature from reaching the specific individuals, environments, and timelines that were fundamentally destined to connect with it. I know you have felt this deeply, haven't you? It is that frustrating, lingering sensation of being entirely present in a physical space, yet simultaneously feeling completely invisible or utterly out of reach. You felt as though you were desperately transmitting your signal, yet the surrounding world lacked the proper receiver to catch your tune. You poured your energy outward, only to watch it vanish into the void, failing to land or take root anywhere meaningful. It is the heavy experience of standing in a crowded room, completely engulfed by your own luminescence, yet feeling more isolated than ever before. Let me assure you, this phenomenon was not a glitch in your system. Instead, it was the ultimate, highly advanced defense mechanism deployed by your biological blueprint. Think of it as a state of profound quantum hibernation. This was an intentionally designed, brilliantly intelligent, and strictly temporary dampening of your outward radiance. It occurred solely so that your deeper electromagnetic identity could undergo a metamorphosis so complex that our standard vocabulary fails to properly describe it. Calling it a simple upgrade severely diminishes its magnitude. Labeling it a recalibration sounds far too sterile and robotic. To truly grasp what your energetic field has been enduring, envision the life cycle of a massive celestial body. Picture a dying star in the absolute depths of gravitational collapse, building up unfathomable internal pressure and condensing unimaginable amounts of raw energy. It does this not to disappear, but to gather the vital force required to detonate outwards into a brilliantly luminous phenomenon becoming exponentially brighter and more expansive than it ever was in its original state. You were never losing your light. You were simply compressing it. And I am here to tell you that agonizing phase of compression has officially come to an end. That underlying hum of anticipation you have been carrying recently, the exact intuitive nudge that guided your hand to click on this very video, the overwhelming sensation that a massive paradigm shift is hovering right on the horizon, even if you lack the words to articulate it. That is the undeniable proof. It is the visceral sensation of your electromagnetic blueprint, finalizing its ultimate tuning process. Consider the scientific findings from the HeartMath Institute, which have definitively proven that the human heart generates an electromagnetic aura roughly 60 times greater in amplitude than the brain itself. That specific, heart-centered broadcasting center within you has just successfully booted up onto an entirely unprecedented wavelength. It is now transmitting a perfectly coherent, stabilized resonance. This is a pristine vibration that the surrounding quantum universe can finally interpret instantly, entirely free from static or distortion. Your personal energetic atmosphere has officially switched into maximum capacity, and over the course of the upcoming presentation, I am going to meticulously break down exactly what this activation means for you. We are going to bypass the fluffy spiritual cliches and avoid empty, vague platitudes. Instead, we are going to dive straight into the concrete, operational mechanics of your own subtle anatomy. We will explore the precise activities your field was engaged in during its quiet hibernation, analyze what it is actively doing at this very moment as you process these words, and outline clear strategies for how you can deliberately wield the potent luminescence that has just awakened within you. Above all else, before we take another step forward into this material, there is one undeniable fact you must permanently anchor into your consciousness. Your inner illumination was never extinguished. It was simply in a state of profound preparation, and the grand event it was painstakingly preparing for was the arrival of the ultimate you. It was waiting for the fully realized, highly intentional, and quantum-harmonized iteration of your soul to step forward. You are currently standing at the threshold of the most creatively fertile, undeniably powerful, and radiantly visible chapter of your earthly existence. So, let us embark on this journey together. Our very first step is to completely redefine what your aura genuinely consists of. I say this because the vast majority of mainstream teachings regarding the human energy field are completely polarized. They are either far too clouded in esoteric mysticism to offer any practical value, or they are stripped down and oversimplified to the point of falsehood. The genuine truth, the scientifically observable and physically grounded reality of your bioenergetic structure, is infinitely more breathtaking and extraordinary than either of those outdated narratives. The empirical reality of your energetic blueprint. Let us establish a fundamental baseline right now. Your energetic footprint is undeniably real. I am not speaking of real in the sense of a poetic metaphor, a spiritual allegory, or a comforting belief system. I mean, it is as undeniably, empirically factual as the gravity anchoring your feet to the earth, or the rhythmic beating of the physical muscle inside your chest. It is a verifiable, documentable, and scientifically quantifiable phenomenon. The human biological vehicle is essentially a living engine that constantly produces a symphony of overlapping electromagnetic emissions. Among these, the heart acts as the absolute powerhouse, generating an energetic signature that dwarfs all others in your system. It projects what physicists refer to as a toroidal field, a continuously flowing, dynamic sphere of energy. Imagine a brilliant, self-sustaining loop that surges outward from the center of your chest, sweeps upward above your crown, arcs downward beneath the soles of your feet, and cycles right back through your core. It is a perpetual motion machine of living electricity. Furthermore, this invisible architecture extends far beyond the physical boundaries of your skin, often expanding several feet into your surrounding environment in every possible direction, and it is far from empty space. This field is saturated with deeply complex, frequency-encoded data. It broadcasts your moment-to-moment physiological condition, the state of your nervous system, your emotional landscape, and crucially, this is the element that changes everything: your internal, subjective perception of reality. The science of coherence and connection. We owe a massive debt of gratitude to organizations like the HeartMath Institute, which have dedicated decades to meticulously mapping the heart's electromagnetic capabilities. Their findings reveal a truth so profound it ought to be foundational knowledge taught to every human being from childhood. Your emotions literally dictate the geometry of your energetic broadcast. When you cultivate genuine states of gratitude, deep affection, or authentic joy, your heart's electrical output snaps into a state defined as coherence. In this state, the chaotic static drops away, replaced by a mathematically smooth, highly synchronized, and perfectly harmonious rhythm of electromagnetic power. When you achieve this internal coherence, that highly structured signal pulses outward into your immediate environment. It doesn't just dissipate into the ether, it interacts directly and measurably with the nervous systems of anyone who crosses into your energetic radius. This beautifully explains phenomena you have undoubtedly experienced, but perhaps dismissed as mere intuition. It is the exact scientific reason why you can intuitively sense the arrival of a loved one before you ever lay eyes on them. It is the underlying mechanics of why certain individuals instantly wrap you in a blanket of peace and expansion, while others trigger an immediate sense of anxiety and constriction in your gut before a single syllable is spoken. Have you ever stepped into a room and instantly read the heavy or vibrant atmosphere? You are not just overly sensitive or imagining things. You are operating exactly as you were engineered to operate. You are a profoundly sophisticated, biological electromagnetic antenna, and your nervous system is flawlessly interpreting the invisible data fields around you. Intersecting with the quantum web, to put it simply, this intricate network of frequencies, the combined quantum-level resonance of your brain, your heart, and your nervous system functioning either in chaotic, static, or beautiful harmony, is your aura. It is not some mystical appendage floating outside of your biology. It is the direct, energetic expression of your biology. It has been broadcasting without pause for every single second of your existence, transmitting a complex code that the surrounding universe constantly monitors and reacts to. This is precisely the juncture where our exploration crosses the threshold from human biology into the mind-bending realm of quantum mechanics, and it is enough to make the hair on your arms stand up. At the subatomic foundation of our universe, the hidden layer operating far below the solid objects we interact with daily, reality is not constructed of fixed, permanent matter. Instead, it exists as a fluid ocean of pure potential, a swirling mist of probability waves, where solid particles are merely an exception to the rule. In this quantum domain, a localized, physical particle only manifests out of that in potential through a highly specific trigger, the process known as wave function collapse. And what initiates this collapse? Interaction with a conscious system. This is famously termed the observer effect. Far from being a fringe, pseudo-scientific idea, this remains one of the most exhaustively tested and irrefutably proven principles in modern physics. The legendary double-slit experiment, repeated endlessly in cutting-edge laboratories worldwide, proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the mere act of conscious observation fundamentally alters how quantum matter behaves. The gaze of the observer forces the wave of infinite possibilities to condense into a single, defined reality. Therefore, your internal state of awareness is absolutely not a helpless passenger merely observing a prefabricated world. You are an active participant in the construction of reality. Your aura, your electromagnetic signature, is the literal, physical apparatus your consciousness utilizes to interface with the quantum field, collapsing endless probabilities into your tangible, lived experience. The architecture of your reality, the energetic blueprint you project outward, is the exact schematic the physical universe utilizes to construct your daily life. Let me be perfectly clear. This is not poetic symbolism or mystical wishful thinking. We are discussing the literal, observable application of quantum mechanics to your individual biological atmosphere. Whenever your subtle body transmits a crystal clear, highly harmonized, and elevated resonance, the quantum web reacts instantly. It magnetizes circumstances, aligned individuals, and golden opportunities that perfectly match that elevated pitch. Conversely, when your energetic signature is fractured, chaotic, or heavily rooted in anxiety, The universe obediently reflects that static right back at you. Crucially, emitting this lower frequency does not mean you are fundamentally flawed or spiritually broken. It simply means your system is operating on outdated software subconscious survival programming installed long before you possessed the cognitive maturity to reject it. The tragedy of the unconscious broadcast. The greatest tragedy of the human experience is that the vast majority of the population transmits their signal entirely on autopilot. They are perpetually radiating frequencies they never consciously selected. These are inherited generational patterns, limiting beliefs absorbed from their family dynamics during early childhood, and the heavy, accumulated residue of past traumas. These invisible scripts convinced them they were fundamentally unsafe, inadequate, or undeserving of the extraordinary existence their inner spirit always craved. People continue to emit these dense, restrictive vibrations, not out of desire or deliberate choice, but simply because nobody has ever handed them an energetic mirror. No one has ever paused to show them the truth, saying, "Look here, this is your active signal. This is the exact frequency your field is perpetually blasting, and this is exactly what the quantum matrix is reading from you." Serving as that ultimate mirror is the precise purpose of the message you are receiving right now. I recognize the architecture of your field, and my deepest intention is to reflect it back to you with absolute clarity. The second you awaken to the reality of your own transmission, the moment you truly grasp how your aura interfaces with the fabric of reality, the rules of the game fundamentally shift. A deliberate, intentional, energetic output isn't just marginally better than a subconscious one. It is exponentially, fundamentally, and categorically superior. Why? Because the sheer force of pure consciousness is the very catalyst that triggers quantum wave collapse. By directing your absolute focused awareness toward your electromagnetic perimeter, you aren't just passively observing it, you are actively reshaping its geometry. You don't have to fabricate your inner light from nothing. You simply need to clearly identify it and immediately cease the behaviors that suffocate it. If this resonance is vibrating truthfully within your own system and you feel the alignment, I invite you to take a brief moment to like this video and subscribe, ensuring we can continue diving into these profound depths together. The mechanics of the dormant upgrade. Now, let us move forward. We must dissect exactly what your energetic field was doing during that agonizing period of silence you recently endured. That heavy phase where your light felt entirely suffocated and your signal refused to reach the destinations it was meant for. I assure you, your auric field was never malfunctioning. On the contrary, it was executing a phenomenally advanced and deeply necessary maneuver. It purposefully dialed back its external projection to facilitate a massive, foundational overhaul of your internal energetic scaffolding. Consider the logistical reality of upgrading a massive telecommunications tower. Expert engineers do not simply slap a new, high-powered antenna onto the structure while the old system is still blasting at maximum capacity. That would cause catastrophic failure. Instead, they must power down the grid. They intentionally suppress the outward signal to safely restructure the internal wiring, recalibrate the hardware, and install the new, advanced transmitters. To a distant observer, the tower appears completely dead and unresponsive. Yet, behind the scenes, the most critical evolutionary work is being meticulously executed. The completion of the metamorphosis. This is the exact blueprint of what your subtle body has just survived. Your biomagnetic sphere underwent an absolute, foundational reboot. It systematically restructured the baseline harmony of your heart center and completely rewrote the quantum code generated by your nervous system. It radically recalibrated the bridge between your internal emotional landscape and the outward signal you inject into the ether. To achieve this monumental feat, your field demanded total introversion. That incredibly frustrating dimming you experienced was actually the crucial mechanism that allowed the upgrade to occur safely. And now, I can confidently tell you that this metamorphosis is finalized. How do I know? More importantly, how do you know? The proof is undeniably clear, because you are standing right here, absorbing these exact words. Your newly upgraded system scanned the digital ether, identified a matching frequency, and effortlessly drew you directly to this information. That restless, unnamed anticipation vibrating in your chest right now isn't nervousness or anxiety. It is the thrilling sensation of your own electromagnetic grid booting up at full capacity, finally recognizing its immense power and preparing for conscious deployment. Your aura knows exactly what it has become. Next, we will examine the precise structural changes that have permanently altered your energetic anatomy. The awakening power of comprehension, grasping the mechanics of your energy field, is far more than a mere exercise in intellectual curiosity. The very act of comprehending it is, in itself, a profound catalyst for spiritual awakening. When your conscious mind fully digests exactly how your biomagnetic field operates, an incredible synergy is forged. This bridge between your cognitive awareness and your subtle energetic output dramatically magnifies the potency of both. Your consciousness and your auric field are not separate entities, they are a unified ecosystem. Therefore, truly understanding your aura is the mandatory first step in fully igniting its latent power. Let us unpack the actual physics behind quantum coherence and explore why it stands as the absolute pinnacle trait of an awakened, highly functioning energetic state. In the realm of physics, the term coherence describes a state of flawless synchronization. It happens when multiple wave frequencies align perfectly, moving in tandem and heavily reinforcing one another. Instead of clashing, fracturing, or canceling each other out in a chaotic jumble, these waves merge to forge a single, unified, and immensely concentrated force. Consider the profound difference between a standard light bulb and a high-powered laser. Both emit light, yet a light bulb scatters its energy in every conceivable direction, rendering it diffuse, soft, and relatively weak. A laser, on the other hand, utilizes the exact same foundational energy, but because its light waves are tightly unified because they are perfectly coherent, that beam possesses the sheer concentrated power to slice straight through solid steel. The ambient light of a bulb doesn't lack raw energy. It fails to cut through matter simply because its output is totally disorganized and intrinsically conflicted. The laser beam aura, emitting a unified signal, your personal energetic perimeter, operates on these exact same universal principles. When the electromagnetic rhythm of your heart center achieves a state of deep, undisturbed harmony, when your heartbeat is fluid and rhythmic rather than jagged and erratic, your aura transforms. When you are anchored in authentic joy rather than defensive fear, when your nervous system feels supremely regulated, grounded, and open to life, in these moments, your subtle body projects an incredibly coherent beacon. Just like that laser, this concentrated emotional bandwidth acts with pinpoint precision. It effortlessly pierces the dense fabric of the quantum web, triggering the collapse of infinite probability waves directly into the specific, tangible experiences you genuinely desire. Conversely, what happens when your internal landscape is fractured? If you are simultaneously broadcasting a tangled web of anxiety, desperate longing, lingering doubt, and fragile hope, your frequencies violently collide. An irregular heartbeat paired with a nervous system locked in a primitive survival response produces catastrophic electromagnetic static. Your energetic broadcast shatters, radiating aimlessly in a million directions and effectively neutralizing its own power. Consequently, the universe receives nothing but scrambled noise, and in return, it materializes a reality that perfectly mirrors that static. Endless contradictions, deep confusion, and the agonizing sensation that your ultimate breakthroughs are perpetually hovering just out of reach. The great tuning process and field entrainment. This brings us back to the mysterious phase of energetic hibernation you recently endured. During that silent period, your biofield was undertaking a massive, crucial intervention. It was actively stripping away those conflicting signals and eradicating deep-seated internal dissonance. Imagine a master musician meticulously tuning a grand piano. They do not merely smash the correct keys louder. They must first painstakingly eliminate the underlying discord to restore a state of pure, pristine resonance before a single melody is played. Your spirit has been quietly, flawlessly tuning its own strings. Once a finely tuned instrument is finally played with intention, the resulting symphony reverberates through the space, forever altering the emotional landscape of everyone who hears it. That is precisely the function of your fully actualized aura. It does not exist merely to illuminate your own path. It radically upgrades the energetic climate for everyone fortunate enough to enter your proximity. You create a localized zone of harmony, a dynamic scientific phenomenon known as field entrainment, without you uttering a single word or lifting a finger. Your luminous integrity subconsciously grants the nervous systems of those around you the permission to drop their defenses, find clarity, and align with their own highest frequencies. You become a walking catalyst for peace. This is the deeply beautiful, immensely powerful, and massively underappreciated reality of what a fully activated human aura actually achieves in the physical world. A moment of reflection. I want to pause here and ask you a genuine question. Can you recall a specific instance, whether it happened yesterday or a decade ago, where you physically felt your own field shift? Have you ever walked into a dense room and witnessed the atmosphere instantly bend and soften to your presence? Have you felt that electric current surge from your core, reach out, and visibly impact the people around you? I would absolutely love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. These visceral moments of undeniable, radiant impact carry far more weight and significance than society has ever taught us to realize. The power of the collective and the somatic anchor. When you vocalize these experiences and share them with others, you are not merely exchanging anecdotes. You are actively weaving something tangible into our collective energetic grid. However, before we delve any deeper into the specific, practical mechanics of how your newly awakened aura operates out in the physical world, I need to pause and share a narrative with you. Why? Because while scientific frameworks and quantum physics are excellent at satisfying the intellect, stories possess a unique capacity to bypass the analytical mind. A story can sink deeply into your tissues and anchor spiritual truths directly into your physical body. The reality of your energetic upgrade must be felt in your bones, not just understood in your brain. Allow me to introduce you to a woman named Celeste, the effortless magnetism of youth. For as long as she could remember, Celeste possessed an undeniable innate luminescence. Even as a young child, she carried a unique atmospheric quality. It was a profound, radiating warmth that people could physically sense long before she even opened her mouth to speak. She had an unexplainable presence that fundamentally altered the emotional temperature of any room she entered, and a specific spark in her gaze that compelled total strangers to pause and look twice. She possessed no vocabulary for this phenomenon. She simply accepted it as a tangible reality because she could feel it vibrating within her, a distinct, buzzing electrical current centered in her chest, constantly seeking a destination. It desperately wanted to connect, to flow outward, and to physically touch the fabric of the world. For many years, it did exactly that. Celeste navigated her 20s fueled by a vibrant, intoxicating aliveness that drew people into her orbit with the gravitational pull of a lighthouse guiding ships. She effortlessly sparked new movements, breathed inspiration into those around her, and served as a human catalyst. Without understanding a single concept regarding quantum coherence or electromagnetic fields, she watched her reality effortlessly organize itself around her dominant frequency in ways that seemed downright miraculous. The era of the great dimming. And then, as she crossed the threshold into her early 30s, the climate abruptly shifted. It was not a catastrophic, singular event. Rather, it was an agonizingly slow, creeping twilight. The familiar, buzzing electricity within her heart center remained, but its trajectory was completely blocked. Her signal was suddenly trapped, going absolutely nowhere. Celeste would step into a crowded room and feel nothing. No subtle shift in the air. No magnetic response from the crowd. She would extend her energy outward to connect with others, only to meet an invisible, maddening wall. Projects and dynamics that had historically flowed with ease suddenly became dense, unresponsive, and steeped in overwhelming friction. Desperate to repair what she believed was broken, she threw herself into fixing it. She doubled down on her meditation practices. She forced herself to work relentlessly. She invested in advanced spiritual courses, devoured stacks of literature, and sought counsel from every expert she could find. She frantically tried to artificially manufacture that old, familiar feeling of expansive aliveness, the sensation of her signal successfully landing somewhere out in the world. But the universe remained deaf. The harder she clawed at that lost radiance, the further it receded into the shadows. Eventually, a heavy, toxic belief took root in her mind. She was fundamentally flawed. She convinced herself that the radiant warmth people used to adore had permanently vanished, and that her years of spiritual striving had merely unmasked a deep, core inadequacy she had previously been too blind to recognize. The alchemical fire. What Celeste could not possibly comprehend at the time was that she had just entered the single most vital phase of her entire existence. She was entirely blind to the fact that her biological energy field was actively executing the most intense, sophisticated system upgrade of its life cycle. The profound dimming she was experiencing on the outside was actually the direct, mathematical result of all her life force being fiercely redirected inward. Her energetic infrastructure was not collapsing. It was quietly, meticulously compressing. It was stockpiling raw power for an impending expansion so massive that it would make her previous era of magnetism look like a mere dress rehearsal. That agonizing sensation of her signal failing to reach anyone was, in reality, a masterclass in energetic purification. Her system was ruthlessly burning away every single frequency that was not undeniably, authentically, and irreducibly her. Imagine a master goldsmith plunging raw metal into a blazing furnace to scorch away every ounce of impurity. That is what was happening to her aura. It was systematically incinerating the desperate frequencies of people-pleasing, the exhausting vibration of performing empathy rather than organically embodying it, the subtle, egoic need to be perceived as a light worker, rather than simply allowing herself to exist as the light. Every subconscious habit of shrinking her power just to make the people around her feel more comfortable, all the performative layers, all the social camouflage she utilized to broadcast what she assumed the world wanted from her, it was all being completely dismantled. The silent return. Then, on an entirely unremarkable morning, a day devoid of any grand celestial alignments, dramatic announcements, or fanfare, Celeste opened her eyes and felt it again. The electricity had returned to her chest, but it had mutated into something entirely unrecognizable. This was no longer the giddy, frantic electricity of a young girl desperate to prove she possessed a special gift. This was the deep, grounded, unshakable current of a woman who had walked barefoot through the alchemical fire. She had emerged with a bone-deep, sovereign knowing that required absolutely zero validation from the external world. She finally realized that she didn't just carry the light, she was the light. She didn't change a single action or alter her routine that day. The quiet power of true alignment. Celeste abandoned all the exhaustive techniques, forced meditations, and performative spirituality. She simply existed, moving through her daily routine anchored in a profound, silent sovereignty. She carried a fully activated awareness of her own electromagnetic boundary, and naturally, the physical world bent to accommodate her. It didn't happen with cinematic fireworks or sudden, shocking plot twists, but the shift was undeniable and entirely tangible. People naturally gravitated into her orbit with renewed fascination. Closed doors suddenly swung wide open, and serendipitous opportunities manifested from completely unexpected directions. Her energetic transmission was finally pure, devoid of static, and entirely her own. Because it was perfectly coherent, it pierced the quantum matrix without a single ounce of distortion. In response, the surrounding universe instantly began organizing physical reality to mirror that pristine frequency. She didn't meticulously rearrange her external circumstances. She revolutionized her internal broadcast, leaving reality with absolutely no alternative but to match it. I share Celeste's journey because her exact energetic trajectory is a direct mirror of your own right now. Yes, the granular details of your life are different. The timeline of your struggles is uniquely yours. The specific, painful flavor of the isolation and energetic hibernation you endured belongs exclusively to your personal history. But the overarching blueprint, that monumental, vastly misunderstood journey from intense compression into radiant expansion, from agonizing obscurity into undeniable luminescence, that specific evolutionary arc belongs entirely to you, too. The very fact that your intuition guided you to absorb these words is proof that your auric field recognizes this massive transition, the pivot, cultivating your new reality. So, where do we go from here? Acknowledging that your personal energy field is currently operating at maximum capacity is merely the starting line. It is absolutely not the finish line. The biological upgrade has indeed finalized. However, maintaining the kind of intentional, world-bending radiance that Celeste effortlessly embodied demands a specific, ongoing commitment from you. You must meticulously identify and immediately cease the subtle habits that actively suffocate your light. We must tread carefully here, because the primary culprits that dampen your aura are rarely obvious, dramatic failures. They are insidious, deeply ingrained, psychological habits that you likely adopted under the false assumption that they were actually aiding your spiritual growth and bringing you closer to your goals. Let us dissect the absolute most destructive mechanism that extinguishes human luminescence, the deeply conditioned habit of transmitting your signal from a state of craving rather than a state of embodiment. The physics of wanting versus being. Consider the actual quantum physics behind this dynamic. When you intensely yearn for a specific outcome, you are inherently hyperfixating on the fact that you currently do not possess it. If you reach out toward your desires from an internal landscape of perceived emptiness, generating the emotion of desire through the painful lens of lack, your heart's electromagnetic generator blasts out a massive, defining frequency of deprivation. You are not transmitting the vibration of the dream itself. You are loudly broadcasting the vibration of its absence. The quantum fabric of the universe reads that dominant signal of not having, and it faithfully, dutifully assembles more physical experiences that validate that exact state of not having. You must understand this universal law. The quantum field does not comprehend human vocabulary. It is completely blind to your carefully written manifestation journals, your spoken intentions, and your daily affirmations. It solely decodes your active electromagnetic footprint, which is generated entirely by your authentic, somatic feelings, not by the emotions you are desperately trying to fake. This perfectly explains the tragic phenomenon of individuals aggressively reciting mantras of boundless wealth for decades, only to remain trapped in grinding poverty. If the words, "I am wealthy," are spoken while the nervous system is suffocating in a visceral panic of financial scarcity, the universe only registers the panic. The quantum matrix always honors the emotional frequency, never the hollow spoken syllable. The ultimate paradigm shift. A fully actualized energetic field operates fundamentally on the frequency of being, never wanting. This is the monumental paradigm shift your newly upgraded system is designed to execute. You must definitively stop grasping at the reality you wish to inhabit, and instead begin anchoring your broadcast in the physiological certainty that you have already arrived. This isn't a theatrical performance or a pseudo-spiritual mind trick. It is a literal, biological repositioning of your electromagnetic baseline. It is a genuine transformation of the core physical sensation from which your heart generates its outward pulse. And here is the most liberating, extraordinary truth of all. You do not need to strain to manufacture this authentic state. Your upgraded aura already knows precisely how to do this. That grueling period of hibernation, compression, and purification you just survived already did the heavy lifting. It ruthlessly scrubbed away the dense layers of fear-based programming, societal conditioning, and the exhausting need to perform your life instead of living it. What is left behind after that intense clearing is your pure, unadulterated soul signature. It is the raw electromagnetic resonance of who you are at your absolute core. It is undeniably potent, perfectly coherent, and breathtakingly beautiful. And right at this very second, it is already transmitting. You do not need to learn how to magically generate light. You simply need to step out of its way and stop dimming the absolute brilliance that is already burning within you. Activating your field. A somatic practice. Let us move beyond theory right now. Intellectual understanding is a vital foundation, but physically, somatically experiencing the living presence of your own electromagnetic field is the true catalyst that ignites conscious broadcasting. To do this, we are going to walk through a guided radiance practice together. Please find a position that feels entirely comfortable to you. Do not force a rigid meditation posture if it feels unnatural. Simply allow your physical form to rest, whether sitting or lying down, in a way that promotes a deep sense of safety and ease. Let your hands settle wherever they naturally fall, perhaps resting softly on your thighs or gently placed over your chest. When you are ready, gently close your eyes. If you prefer to keep them open, lower your gaze so your vision softens and blurs slightly. Now, deliberately detach your focus from the chatter of your mind. Draw all of your awareness downward, anchoring it deeply into the physical center of your chest, the literal space behind your sternum, where your physical heart resides. I want you to simply observe this space. Do not try to forcefully manufacture a sensation. Just act as a quiet witness. Notice if there is a subtle warmth accumulating there. Notice if you feel a faint, buzzing aliveness, a gentle tingling, or a soft, rhythmic pulsing that feels distinctly different from the rest of your body. You might feel this immediately, or it might take a few moments of quiet attention. Whatever you experience is perfectly correct. From that specific, activated center within your chest, I invite you to visualize or simply feel. If visualization is difficult, a glowing light. Do not picture a harsh, blinding glare. Imagine a deeply comforting, organic radiance. Picture the rich, amber hue of a flickering candle, the soft pinks of a sunrise, or that perfectly warm, golden hour glow just before dusk. Feel this living, breathing luminescence gently pulsing at your core. As you take a slow, deliberate breath in, allow this inner light to subtly intensify, growing slightly warmer and more vibrant. As you exhale, feel this light effortlessly expand. Watch it. Wash outward from your center in every direction, spilling forward and backward, reaching out to your left and your right, rising to illuminate the crown of your head and flowing downward to anchor the soles of your feet. Breathe in. The light deepens and brightens. Breathe out. The light gently expands. Inhale. Greater intensity. Exhale. Wider expansion. On your next exhalation, allow this golden radiance to push past the physical boundary of your skin. Let it spill out into the empty space immediately surrounding you. Feel it extend 2 feet in every direction. Now 3 feet. Now 4. Allow it to effortlessly permeate the entire room you are in. Let it fill the space with a soft, ambient warmth. Remember, you are not artificially fabricating this energy. You are simply granting yourself permission to consciously perceive the electromagnetic field that is already actively pulsing around you. You are becoming intimate with your own aura. Sink deeply into the feeling of this space. This is not a trick of the imagination. It is the verifiable signature of your life force. Now, while resting safely within this expanded, luminous cocoon of your own awareness, I want you to call a specific image into your mind. Crucially, do not bring this to mind as a desperate wish or an unmet desire. Envision it as a concrete memory of something that has already occurred. Call forth one single image, one distinct feeling, or one specific quality of experience that perfectly embodies your most fully actualized, radiant life. Choose something that captures exactly what it feels like to exist as your most potent, alive, and powerful self. Do not aggressively hunt for this image. Let it drift organically to the surface of your awareness. When it arrives, allow the warmth in your chest to naturally respond to it. Let the expanded light of your aura envelop it. Do not squeeze it tight or try to force it into physical reality. Simply sit with it. Allow the profound physical sensation of that reality, its precise electromagnetic signature, to cascade freely through your entire field. Understand what is happening right now. In this exact second, your heart is generating a flawlessly coherent electromagnetic frequency. That signal is actively washing into the quantum matrix, and the universe is reading it not as a hollow request, but as an undeniable, established fact. This is the art of conscious broadcasting. This is the true function of an awakened aura. Linger in this specific frequency for another deep breath or two. Allow your energetic blueprint to deeply memorize this state. Let your heart's powerful rhythm sustain it. Slowly, whenever you feel ready, gently guide your awareness back to the physical room. Return to the weight of your body. Return to my words. Notice how the center of your chest feels right now. That lingering warmth, that undeniable sense of expansion, that grounded reality of something vibrating and alive within you that is your field. That is the true essence of your aura. And that profound power is exactly what has been quietly waiting beneath the surface, surviving the hibernation, preparing for this very moment of conscious activation. Your inner light is fully operational. Truthfully, it was never extinguished. Now that we have anchored the internal somatic experience, the warmth, the coherence, the undeniable physical reality of your own broadcast, it is time to pivot outward. Next, we will explore exactly how this newly stabilized, highly coherent field actively manipulates and reorganizes the external physical world around you. The mechanics of manifestation, quantum resonance. Grasping the precise physics behind this dynamic is what elevating these concepts from lovely, abstract spiritual ideas into a highly practical, utterly reliable, and life-altering technology. We must move beyond vague metaphors and dive deeply into the actual quantum mechanics of how your highly coherent electromagnetic output physically interacts with the probability waves of the universe to sculpt your tangible reality. Let us examine the phenomenon of quantum resonance. In the hard sciences, resonance occurs when one vibrating system encounters another system that is oscillating at the exact same frequency. When these two systems meet, they do not simply tolerate one another or bounce off each other. Instead, they lock together and dramatically amplify one another. They merge to generate a unified vibration that is exponentially more powerful than either individual wave could ever be on its own. You have likely witnessed the destructive or awe-inspiring power of resonance in the physical world without even realizing the underlying physics. It is the exact reason a trained opera singer can shatter a crystal glass. The glass doesn't break because the note is overwhelmingly loud. It shatters because the singer's vocal cords perfectly match the natural resonant frequency of the crystal, amplifying its internal vibration until the structure collapsed. It is the infamous reason why marching soldiers are ordered to break their stride when crossing a bridge. If the rhythmic pounding of their boots accidentally matches the bridge's natural resonant frequency, the structure will begin to violently sway and eventually rip itself apart, regardless of how solidly it was built. It is why you can strike a tuning fork on one side of a quiet room, and an identical tuning fork sitting completely untouched on a table across the room will spontaneously begin to hum. The shared frequency alone bridges the gap. Quantum resonance operates on this exact same foundational law, except it functions at the invisible level of cosmic probability waves, tuning the fabric of reality. When your energetic blueprint pulses outward with a highly coherent, laser-like electromagnetic signal, it triggers a profound resonance effect within the quantum field. Your specific frequency sweeps through the infinite ocean of possibilities and interacts with probability waves vibrating at a similar wavelength. The resonance physically forces those specific probabilities to collapse into concrete, physical experiences, pushing them to the forefront of your lived reality. Simultaneously, it drastically reduces the likelihood that discordant, mismatched probability waves experiences that do not match your vibe will ever materialize in your timeline. In essence, your stable, coherent, emotional, and electromagnetic transmission is actively tuning the surrounding fabric of reality. You are effectively scanning an infinite menu of possible futures and magnetically pulling down the specific scenarios, people, and opportunities that perfectly harmonize with the broadcast you are emitting. When spiritual teachings casually say like attracts like, they are often dismissing it as a fuzzy, mystical rule. But in reality, it is a ruthlessly precise, quantum mechanical description of how your biological energy field actively reorganizes the physical world around you. The problem of the fragmented broadcast. So, what exactly shifts the moment your auric field successfully completes its upgrade and boots into full capacity? To understand this, we must look at the state of your field before the activation during that incredibly painful, agonizing phase of compression, dormancy, and purification. Back then, your transmission was chaotic, complex, and deeply fragmented. Your energetic output was a messy cocktail of wildly conflicting frequencies. You were simultaneously broadcasting the pure frequency of your deepest, authentic self, alongside the heavy, frantic frequency of your deepest fears. The soaring frequency of your highest aspirations, completely tangled up with the dense frequency of your nagging self-doubt, the raw truth of who you genuinely are, violently clashing with the desperate frequency of who society convinced you that you needed to be. These internal wars did more than just drain your vitality. From a physics perspective, these conflicting signals smashed into each other, creating massive electromagnetic interference patterns. This internal static made it mathematically impossible for the universe to accurately read your true desires. Imagine driving down a highway and trying to tune into a specific radio station, but your dial is caught exactly between two different broadcasts. You can faintly hear the beautiful song you want, but it is constantly drowned out by the harsh static of the overlapping station. You can't lock onto the melody. The quantum field was experiencing the exact same struggle when trying to interpret your output. Your magnificent, authentic frequency, the pristine, energetic signature of your truest soul, was always there, tirelessly transmitting, but it was completely suffocated by the deafening noise of everything you are not. The survival mechanisms, the people-pleasing habits, the deeply ingrained scarcity mindset, all of it generated a cloud of electromagnetic static that hopelessly garbled your message to the universe. The clean signal, and the sudden shift, that grueling period of energetic hibernation existed solely to sweep away that static. It was a brutal but necessary clearing process. And now, the noise has been silenced. Your transmission is finally clean. Because of this profound inner quiet, the quantum matrix can finally read your signature with absolute, crystal clarity. It is no longer confused by contradictory static. It is finally able to respond directly to your purest, most authentic frequency. The resonance loop between your internal state and the external probability waves is now razor-sharp, completely unobstructed, and immensely powerful. The equation has simplified. What you consistently radiate is precisely what reality will faithfully assemble around you. This is no longer a hopeful maybe. It isn't something that will happen eventually if you just try hard enough. This mechanism is permanently engaged and continuously operating right now. The profound difference is that your output is now sufficiently stabilized to yield clear, undeniable, and consistent physical results, finally replacing the chaotic, confusing, almost, but not quite manifestations of your dormant era. This absolute clarity explains a phenomenon frequently reported by individuals who suddenly awaken their full energetic capacity. They rarely describe a slow, gradual trickling in of positive changes. Instead, they recount a massive, defining threshold crossing a stark before and after moment in their lives. The reality around them undergoes a rapid, dramatic reorganization. Projects that sat hopelessly gridlocked for years suddenly burst into forward motion. Deeply desired connections that always seemed to slip through their fingers miraculously materialize without effort. The illusion of trying. Suddenly, golden opportunities that previously always seemed to bypass them and land in the laps of others begin flowing directly to their doorstep. This massive external reorganization occurs not because the physical world inexplicably changed its mind, but entirely because the individual permanently altered their internal broadcast signal. I must be excruciatingly precise about this next point, because this is the exact juncture where the vast majority of people become confused and accidentally sabotage their own energetic activation. This profound shift we are discussing has absolutely nothing to do with trying harder. The awakening of your field does not require you to apply more sheer, brute force effort. It does not require you to learn more complicated spiritual techniques, endure longer meditation sessions, stare at more complex visualization boards, or recite louder affirmations. In fact, and I recognize this is the concept most people find genuinely terrifying and incredibly difficult to accept, activating your aura requires the absolute opposite of trying. Think about the psychological and physical sensation of trying. As most people experience it, trying is fundamentally rooted in a desperate desire to attain something you currently do not possess. From an energetic standpoint, the very act of trying is a massive, blaring electromagnetic broadcast of lack. It is the visceral sensation of clawing toward a goal from a hollow place of emptiness. And remember the physics we just discussed. If your emotional engine is fueled by that feeling of absence, your heart generates the frequency of absence. The quantum field reads that specific vibration and faithfully materializes more empty space. A fully activated, highly coherent energy field never tries to manipulate or create. It simply exists. It broadcasts entirely from the quiet, unshakable state of already being. This is the core distinction. This is the ultimate lesson that your painful period of dormancy was desperately trying to teach you. You do not need to master a new set of tools. You need to completely revolutionize your relationship with your own biomagnetic field. You must fundamentally redefine what you believe yourself to be. You are not merely a tiny, isolated human desperately attempting to force a harsh reality to comply with your wishes. You are a living, breathing, quantum transmission tower. You are the continuous source code from which your immediate physical reality actively assembles itself, moment by moment. You do not need to nervously dial through the radio to find the right station. You are the station. The shift from observer to source. Now that your internal architecture has successfully upgraded to maximum capacity, you hold the keys to an experience that the vast majority of humanity will tragically never discover. The profound reality of existing as the conscious creator of your environment, rather than its helpless victim. You now possess the capability to transmit a signal so undeniably authentic, so mathematically coherent, and so brilliantly clear that the surrounding quantum matrix is constantly forced to rearrange its geometry to match you. Does this imply that you will never face another hurdle? Does it guarantee that every future moment will be a breeze of effortless perfection? Absolutely not. Challenges will continue to arise, because friction is a necessary component of a deeply engaged human experience. The profound difference lies entirely in how you meet those challenges. When an obstacle appears, you no longer face it from the shrinking, terrified posture of a powerless observer. Instead, you step into the arena as a fully conscious broadcaster. You aim the laser-like coherence of your electromagnetic signature directly at the problem. You do not exhaust yourself fighting it. You simply refuse to adopt its low vibration. You anchor yourself in a frequency that is vastly larger, calmer, and more powerful than the obstacle itself. And inevitably, the quantum field reorganizes the situation to align with your superior frequency. This is your new operational protocol. And it officially begins right now. The professional who lost his spark. To illustrate exactly how this functions, let me share the story of a man named Elion. Elion had dedicated his entire adult life to the service of helping others. By every conventional metric, he was incredibly successful at it. He was deeply knowledgeable, highly competent, and genuinely possessed a caring heart. Yet, a persistent, unspoken frustration shadowed his career. There was an intangible depth of impact, a profound level of transformation that he could clearly visualize in his mind. Yet, he could never quite manage to materialize it in his day-to-day practice. He meticulously checked every box. He utilized the absolute best methodologies, employed the perfect phrasing, and always showed up with the purest of intentions. Despite this, he constantly felt that his interactions were falling just shy of their potential. It was as if his energetic signal was reaching out to his clients, but stopping inches before truly connecting. He felt like he was desperately transmitting on an AM radio frequency, while the people he was trying to heal were all listening on an FM dial. Convinced that the problem was a lack of expertise, Alien spent years trying to brute force a solution through skill acquisition. He attended more seminars, earned higher certifications, and obsessively refined his technical approaches. While this relentless dedication did narrow the gap slightly, it never completely bridged it. That profound, life-altering impact he craved remained agonizingly out of reach. Then, the great dormancy arrived. For Alien, the upgrade disguised itself as a crushing existential crisis. He plunged into a suffocating, months-long period where he questioned the validity of his entire career and the core of his life's purpose. The very work that used to fill him with boundless energy suddenly felt incredibly hollow, mechanical, and dead. He continued to show up for his clients, but he did so with a creeping, terrifying sense of total detachment. He was deeply frightened, not because he was doing a bad job, but because he realized he was merely putting on a performance. He was executing the correct physical motions, but the authentic emotional current behind them had completely evaporated. Like Celeste, Alien had absolutely no idea that his subtle body was in the midst of executing its most critical developmental phase. He couldn't comprehend that this terrifying emptiness he was feeling was actually a necessary, systematic purge. His system was violently rejecting and clearing out every single frequency that was not his true essence. It was burning away the exhausting vibration of trying to be the perfect healer, instead of just allowing himself to be. It was incinerating the heavy pattern of performing empathy, rather than simply radiating organic warmth. His aura was stripping away the dense frequency of desperately striving for an impact, preparing him to simply become the living embodiment of it. The pivot point, when trying dissolves. Then, the breakthrough happened. It occurred on an entirely unexceptional Tuesday, right in the middle of a standard conversation with a client he was actively attempting to assist. Suddenly, a profound and quiet shift took place within Alien. He stopped trying. This wasn't a surrender to apathy or a sudden bout of indifference. It was the complete dissolution of the agonizing effort involved in helping. The desperate reaching, the mental strain, the exhausting performance of playing the perfect healer, it all instantly evaporated. What rushed in to fill that void was a state of profound, unassuming, and completely organic warmth. Alien was suddenly just there. He was entirely himself. Without employing a single learned technique or exerting an ounce of effort, he began broadcasting the pure, unadulterated frequency of genuine care and authentic witnessing. The client sitting across from him, who had previously been politely nodding along but remaining emotionally fortified and distant, abruptly fell silent. A shift occurred in the room. Moments later, the client began to weep. These weren't tears of sorrow or pain. It was the overwhelming, visceral relief of being profoundly, truly seen by the coherent energy field of another human being. From a technical standpoint, Alien had changed absolutely nothing about his methodology. He hadn't used a secret phrase or a new psychological trick. He had simply ceased suffocating his own radiance with the exhausting effort of trying to be something. In that exact moment of release, his fully actualized field executed the exact function it was always designed to perform. It effortlessly bridged the physical gap between two nervous systems and established a profound, undeniable connection on a purely electromagnetic level. This is the genuine definition of power. When an aura reaches its full capacity, it is not the power of accumulating more knowledge, mastering more complex skills, displaying stricter discipline, or projecting a more spiritual persona. It is the raw, unadulterated power of a crystal-clear broadcast. It is the sheer force of being so deeply and coherently yourself that your energetic signature penetrates the quantum web without a fraction of distortion, interacting directly with the deepest truths hidden within the fields of others. This is the exact threshold you are currently crossing. This is the magnificent reality your upgrade has unlocked. The inevitable resistance of the old guard. However, there is a critical dynamic we must confront right now, because it arises for nearly every individual who reaches this stage of awakening. If we fail to address it, this phenomenon possesses the dangerous potential to force you back into hiding just as your light reaches its maximum brilliance. The exact second your field fully activates and begins projecting its upgraded signature, you will almost certainly encounter resistance. I must clarify, this resistance does not originate from the universe trying to test you, nor is it a punishment from the quantum field. The friction comes entirely from the individuals, environments, and established habits that were perfectly calibrated to your old, diminished signal. Let us examine the physics of this transition. When your auric field suddenly begins transmitting a vastly higher, more coherent frequency, the people and circumstances currently in your orbit who were deeply resonant with your previous, chaotic output will experience immediate and intense dissonance. They are still tuned to the old station. Your new broadcast no longer matches the reality they are accustomed to receiving from you. This energetic mismatch manifests in the physical world in several distinct ways. It looks like sudden, inexplicable confusion or tension in long-standing relationships. It feels like a sharp increase in friction with friends or family members who were once deeply comfortable with you, but who now seem visibly agitated or threatened by your presence. It appears as careers, living situations, or social circles that previously felt like a perfect fit, suddenly feeling painfully restrictive, awkward, or entirely misaligned. Trusting the quantum reorganization, I need you to hear this loud and clear. This turbulence is absolutely not a sign that you are making a mistake or that something has gone wrong. On the contrary, it is the ultimate confirmation that everything is going exceptionally right. For the very first time in your life, your biological energy field is broadcasting your absolute, unvarnished truth. Consequently, everything in your reality that was attached to your previous, inauthentic frequency is naturally vibrating out of your orbit. You must reframe your perspective on this. This is not a tragic loss. This is the quantum matrix actively, ruthlessly reorganizing your physical reality to perfectly match your new baseline. The relationships, careers, and experiences that possess a genuine resonance with your true self are already beginning their journey toward you. Conversely, the elements that only existed in your life because they resonated with your fear, your people-pleasing, or your diminished light are naturally repelling away. Do not fight this natural law. Do not desperately cling to the people or situations that are organically falling away. Do not try to forcefully accelerate the arrival of your new reality, either. Your only job is to fiercely protect the coherence of your broadcast. Continue to radiate the pure, unfiltered frequency of your authentic self, and simply allow the universe to do what it does best. Flawlessly assemble physical reality around the clearest, most powerful signal it detects. Your energetic blueprint knows exactly how to navigate this. Trust your field. Anatomy of the aura, the physical perimeter. Now that we understand the broad mechanics of your broadcast, we must examine the specific architecture of your aura. Your electromagnetic atmosphere is not merely a solid, uniform bubble of energy. It is a highly complex, multi-layered dimensional structure. Each specific layer transmits completely different data and interacts with the quantum web in uniquely specific ways. Understanding the anatomy of these layers is the key that transforms you from someone who simply hopes their activation is working into a conscious architect actively wielding their energetic capabilities. Let us begin with the innermost boundary, the layer situated closest to your physical form, often hovering mere inches above your skin, is generated almost entirely by the raw electromagnetic output of your central nervous system. This specific boundary is your immediate, real-time physiological broadcast. It is the layer that continuously transmits the most reactive, primal data regarding your baseline physical and emotional safety. The first layer, the baseline of somatic safety. Let us examine the foundational architecture of your aura, starting with the innermost boundary, hovering mere inches above your skin. This primal energetic layer is directly generated by the real-time electrical output of your central nervous system. It acts as the absolute baseline of your entire broadcast. This specific perimeter continuously transmits the most crucial data regarding your physical reality. Your immediate level of muscular tension versus deep cellular ease. Your brain's subconscious assessment of environmental threats versus profound safety, and your body's grounded relationship to the present moment. If this foundational layer is locked in a chronic state of hypervigilance, if your nervous system is endlessly looping outdated survival scripts and low-grade panic, it generates a massive cloud of electromagnetic static right at the root of your field. This foundational noise does not remain isolated. It ripples outward, aggressively bleeding into every subsequent layer of your aura and severely garbling your entire signal. This is precisely why somatic regulation is not just a trendy wellness concept. Intentional breathwork, mindful physical movement, and deep bodily awareness are the absolute prerequisites for auric activation. These practices are not secondary or optional. They are the mandatory groundwork. They provide your nervous system with the undeniable physical proof of safety required to silence that baseline static, thereby granting the higher dimensions of your aura the clarity they need to transmit effectively. The second layer, the relational and emotional bridge. Moving outward, we encounter the middle strata of your biomagnetic field. This zone functions exclusively as your emotional and relational broadcasting hub. Whenever you interact with another human being, this is the exact energetic frequency their nervous system is actively decoding. When a stranger walks into a room and instantly feels a profound sense of comfort in your presence, they are directly reading your middle layer. When someone feels inexplicably seen, unconditionally accepted, and entirely safe before you have even spoken a word to them, it is because your emotional field has successfully interfaced with their nervous system. The absolute key to achieving pristine coherence within this middle layer is radical, unapologetic emotional authenticity. It has absolutely nothing to do with performing toxic positivity or plastering on a fake, socially acceptable smile. The surrounding quantum matrix as well as the biological antennas of the people around you can instantly differentiate between a genuinely felt emotion and a fabricated persona on a purely mathematical, electromagnetic level. When you attempt to project artificial happiness while masking deep internal pain, you create a severe vibrational mismatch. This dissonance registers in the middle layer as a chaotic stutter. Even if the people around you cannot consciously articulate why, their nervous systems will register you as slightly off or fundamentally untrustworthy. Conversely, embracing radical emotional honesty, even if that means openly acknowledging heavy grief, deep confusion, or paralyzing uncertainty, generates immense energetic coherence. Authenticity is, by definition, the state of perfect alignment. It is the flawless synchronization between your internal truth and your external broadcast. This honest alignment is electromagnetically magnificent. It is the exact reason why certain individuals feel so profoundly grounding to be around. They are not exhausting themselves performing an emotion. They are simply inhabiting their truth. The third layer, the quantum interface. Finally, we reach the outermost perimeter of your energetic atmosphere, a boundary that can expand several feet outward into the space around you. This layer carries your purposive, intentional data. This is the primary interface where your aura directly converses with the fabric of the universe. It is the precise mechanism that triggers the collapse of infinite probability waves and magnets concrete realities into your physical timeline. To achieve ultimate coherence in this outermost boundary, you must operate from a place of profound, heart-centered intention. I am not referring to traditional mental goal setting or intellectually reciting a list of things you think you should want. I am talking about the visceral, somatically anchored reality of your soul's absolute deepest callings. These are the specific connections, creations, and lived experiences your heart instantly recognizes as your inevitable destiny, long before your logical mind tries to analyze them. The power of full synchronization, when all three of these dimensional layers lock into simultaneous harmony, when your innermost nervous system achieves grounded regulation, your middle layer radiates unapologetic emotional truth, and your outermost boundary transmits pure, heart-driven intention, your aura officially boots into maximum capacity. At this peak level of operation, your biofield stops merely influencing your circumstances. It begins actively, measurably, and powerfully dominating the collapse of quantum probabilities, forging a physical reality that perfectly mirrors your truest self. This phenomenal capability is your inherent birthright. This is the ultimate destination your exhausting period of energetic hibernation was painstakingly preparing you to inhabit. Now, we must transition from theory into direct application. I am going to guide you through a precise methodology designed to help you consciously synchronize all three of these dimensional layers. Your energetic awakening is not a passive event that simply happens to you. It is a highly dynamic process that demands your deliberate, intentional participation, requiring the full, focused power of your conscious awareness to master your own electromagnetic architecture. The tri-layer synchronization practice. Let us actively integrate this knowledge right now. We are going to consciously align all three dimensions of your energetic architecture. Take a deliberate breath. Do not strain or force your lungs, but draw the air in slightly deeper than your subconscious rhythm. Guide the breath down into the lowest chambers of your belly, allowing your abdomen and chest to gently expand together. This specific diaphragmatic movement acts as a biological override, instantly communicating a profound sense of safety directly to your brainstem. As you inhale, become intensely curious about your physical vessel. Notice the heaviness of gravity pulling against your bones, the ambient temperature resting on your skin, and the subtle, vibrating aliveness beneath your surface. Do not analyze or judge these sensations. You are simply shining the focused light of your awareness onto the root layer of your biomagnetic field, your physical baseline. As you exhale, command your physical form to soften. Do not violently push your tension away. Simply allow the outward breath to carry off whatever muscular density is ready to dissolve. You are actively proving to your nervous system that this exact second is completely secure. You are anchoring into the truth that your body is your sanctuary, and right now, that sanctuary is impenetrable. Execute this cycle for 3 profound breaths. Inhale, deep bodily awareness. Exhale, total physical softening. Anchor yourself in pure, undeniable presence, the core of emotional truth. Next, elevate your concentration to your emotional epicenter, the middle layer of your aura. I am not asking you to artificially conjure the feelings you assume a healed or spiritual person ought to feel. I want you to identify what is undeniably, factually pulsing within your chest right at this exact moment. Whether it is a comforting warmth, a spark of eager anticipation, a wave of profound relief, or even a heavy, lingering shadow of grief for the decades you spent minimizing your own light. Allow it to exist completely. Do not mask it. Do not attempt to amplify it for a performance. Let it simply breathe. Pay close attention to this vital distinction. A genuine emotional state carries a heavy somatic weight. It feels entirely different from a fabricated mood. It possesses a raw, undeniable texture of truth that reverberates through your cells. That raw truth is the very definition of energetic coherence. It is your middle boundary snapping into perfect, frictionless alignment. Linger in this authentic reality for a moment. Own it completely. The outermost command. From this grounded foundation of nervous system safety and unapologetic emotional honesty, allow your consciousness to sweep outward, push past the physical boundaries of your skin, and inhabit the expansive, outermost perimeter of your energy field. Within this expanded state, bypass your analytical mind. Do not think. Instead, feel the absolute certainty of what your deepest soul knows to be true about your life's trajectory right now. Discard your superficial wishes and silence your temporary anxieties. Tap into the quiet, unshakable core of your inner knowing. It may present itself as a sudden surge of heat, a visual flash, or simply a silent, wordless conviction of a reality that already belongs to you, even if the physical world has not caught up yet. Hold that sovereign knowing within your outer sphere. Let your expanded aura transmit this data into the quantum web. Remember, you are not whispering a desperate plea or making a request. You are blasting a definitive, unalterable signal. The unified broadcast. Feel the majestic architecture of your entire field operating in this exact second. Your physical base is anchored in profound safety. Your emotional core is vibrating with radical authenticity. Your outer perimeter is commanding the quantum matrix with pure intention. All three dimensions are mathematically synchronized. They are harmonizing to produce a single, impenetrable, and blindingly powerful electromagnetic transmission. This is the reality of your aura operating at its absolute zenith. This is the exact frequency the universe is actively reading from you right now. And whatever the quantum field reads, it is universally bound to replicate. Breathe into this unified state. Let your energetic anatomy permanently memorize this exact frequency. When you feel complete, slowly transition your awareness back to the physical room. The ultimate challenge, sustaining the signal. Before we move forward, I need to ask you a highly confrontational question, and I want you to answer it with radical honesty. When was the absolute last time you allowed yourself to somatically feel deep within your bones that you are fundamentally enough? I do not mean believing you will be enough once you finally heal your trauma, hit a financial milestone, or master a new spiritual discipline. I mean feeling that your current, unvarnished energetic signature, exactly as it exists in this very millisecond, is fiercely powerful and entirely worthy of the magnificent reality it is commanding. Because here is the hidden truth about this entire process that most guides completely gloss over. The initial awakening of your aura is actually not the difficult part. The true, grueling test is maintaining that sovereign, activated posture when the echoes of your past attempt to convince you that you are still small. The outdated neural pathways, the relentless inner critic, and the historical energetic loops that have governed your life for decades do not just instantly evaporate into thin air the moment your system upgrades. They remain in your orbit, whispering old lies. However, they have been entirely stripped of their authority. Why? Because prior to this magnificent upgrade, those parasitic frequencies, the persistent narratives of lack, unworthiness, and terror were a perfect mathematical match for your old baseline. They shared your previous vibration. The mechanics of out-broadcasting the static. Historically, those destructive internal narratives felt incredibly real and painfully valid because they perfectly mirrored the chaotic frequency you were actively transmitting. They were electromagnetically consistent with your old identity. Now that your system has undergone its profound evolution, these outdated scripts completely lack resonance with your new operating system. When they arise now, they no longer feel like truth. They register merely as irritating static. They are the desperate ghosts of the past attempting to impose their dense weight onto a vibration that has already transcended them. As you dedicate yourself to intentionally transmitting your newly harmonized signal, anchoring yourself in physical safety, unapologetic emotional truth, and pure intention, this static loses its grip entirely. You achieve this liberation not by engaging in a grueling internal war against your shadows, but by simply out-broadcasting them. Your synchronized, awakened energy field commands vastly more authority than the decaying echoes of your former self. Your only task is to continuously elect to transmit from this elevated state, the art of the return, redefining failure. Understand that maintaining this coherence is a continuous discipline. It is not a magical one-time technique you apply to permanently fix yourself. It is an ongoing devotion. You must actively choose to pivot back to this harmonic state repeatedly, returning to it as many times as necessary until it permanently overwrites your old baseline, until this crystalline broadcast becomes your absolute default and the chaotic noise becomes a rare exception. It is crucial to address the concept of relapse here. When the familiar pangs of anxiety surface, when the whispers of self-doubt creep in, or when the heavy voice of inadequacy grows deafening, the vast majority of individuals panic. They tragically misinterpret this temporary slip as definitive proof that their energetic activation was a sham, that their spiritual evolution failed, and that their progress was entirely an illusion. Let me shatter that misconception permanently. Slipping backward is not evidence of failure. The act of consciously returning is the actual work. Every single time you catch your mind drifting into a dense, fear-based wavelength, and you deliberately redirect your focus back to your empowered auric field, you are actively forging unbreakable neural pathways. You are literally, physiologically, and electromagnetically cementing your new baseline. The act of returning is the crucible of your transformation. With consistent repetition, the agonizing gap between losing your center and reclaiming it shrinks dramatically. Eventually, the turnaround becomes instantaneous. You will learn to intercept the downward spiral the very millisecond it begins. You will course correct before you have taken more than a single step into the old frequency. This is the true definition of mastery. Mastery is never characterized by a complete absence of inner turbulence. It is defined entirely by the breathtaking speed and elegance of your recovery. Your energetic architecture is already primed for this rhythm. That grueling era of isolation and perceived stagnation you recently endured was, in reality, a rigorous boot camp designed exclusively to teach you this exact skill. You spent months, perhaps years, learning to sustain an internal ember of truth even when your external circumstances relentlessly contradicted it. You are already a master of the return. You simply lack the vocabulary to describe what you are actively practicing. Now, you hold the blueprint, the ultimate quantum shield. Now, let us pivot to a profoundly misunderstood dimension of an awakened biofield, one that mainstream spiritual discourse almost entirely ignores. We must examine the absolute, impenetrable protective mechanics of your aura. Your energy sphere is not merely a relentless outward projector. It simultaneously generates an absolute boundary condition. It strictly dictates what energies, entities, and circumstances are granted permission to pierce your personal atmosphere and access your reality. View this dynamic strictly through the lens of quantum physics. The surrounding universe is a swirling ocean of infinite probability waves. Every conceivable disaster and every imaginable triumph exists simultaneously as raw potential. However, the only realities that possess the capability to collapse into concrete, physical events in your timeline are the ones that perfectly harmonize with your active broadcast. Everything that clashes with your vibration remains permanently suspended as a mere possibility. It simply cannot reach you. This is not because you are being shielded by a mystical guardian angel. It is because those dense experiences completely lack the resonant frequency required to interact with your field. In this paradigm, a fully synchronized, highly activated aura acts as the ultimate, invincible shield. It does not protect you by erecting rigid, defensive, fear-based walls. It protects you by cultivating a specific resonance environment where dense, harmful realities literally lack the necessary hook to attach to you. Toxic dynamics, exploitative relationships, and catastrophic scenarios rooted in terror and scarcity simply cannot dock with a field transmitting pure authenticity and sovereign power. This perfectly elucidates a fascinating phenomenon. When individuals fundamentally upgrade their electromagnetic baseline, chronic patterns of victimhood, bad luck, or toxic encounters miraculously vanish from their lives. The external world didn't suddenly become a utopia. Their biological transmitter simply stopped emitting the exact signal that those painful circumstances relied upon to exist. The law of quantum immunity. It is an inescapable law of physics. You absolutely cannot magnetize an experience that does not share your active wavelength. Because of this universal rule, a fully awakened auric sphere categorically ceases to transmit the dense, heavy frequencies of scarcity and terror. And because it no longer broadcasts these signals, it becomes physically incapable of attracting predatory individuals, emotionally bankrupting situations, or soul-crushing circumstances that serve only to diminish your light. Instead, your field continuously radiates pure, sovereign truth, profound authenticity, and the breathtaking luminescence of a human being who has finally remembered their own magnitude. In response, the quantum matrix faithfully orchestrates reality to mirror that exact magnificence. However, we must clarify a vital misconception regarding this defensive mechanism. This phenomenon is not about rendering yourself completely untouchable. It does not mean you are permanently sealed inside a sterile, artificial bubble where hardship can never reach you. A deeply engaged, robust human existence inherently involves friction. Authentic evolution demands challenging catalysts. The true protective function of your upgraded field does not eradicate all obstacles. Rather, it serves as an incredibly sophisticated filter. It guarantees that the specific hurdles that do manage to cross your perimeter are exclusively those destined to propel your ultimate growth. You will still face trials, but they will be purposeful. They will arrive to push you toward deeper harmony and serve your highest authentic development. What your aura actively repels are the chaotic, senseless, and deeply draining encounters that only manifest when you are broadcasting a baseline of fear. You do not have to battle these random chaotic events. They simply bounce off your field because there is zero vibrational match. This represents a monumental paradigm shift, and it is frequently the very first tangible benefit that newly activated individuals report. Life simply stops delivering those inexplicable, exhausting blows. Even when severe friction arises, it feels distinctly purposeful, like a divine assignment tailored for your mastery, rather than a cruel punishment you are simply forced to endure. Your energetic architecture is not merely a tool for creation. It is a highly intelligent instrument of absolute discernment, the daily stewardship of your light. So, how do we anchor this profound state into the gritty, practical reality of your everyday life? Acknowledging that the biological upgrade is finalized is a beautiful first step, but a flourishing energy field demands consistent stewardship. It requires a gentle, grounded, daily devotion to ensure it remains stabilized in its new coherence, rather than allowing it to lazily drift back toward decaying historical patterns. Let me alleviate your mind right now. This maintenance is wonderfully simple. It demands no exhaustive, hours-long meditation retreats, no complex esoteric ceremonies, and absolutely no radical restructuring of your daily schedule. What it truly requires is something far more grounded and infinitely more radical. Raw, unadulterated presence. You must cultivate the habit of continually checking the temperature of your energetic perimeter, not in an obsessive, hyper-vigilant manner, but with a gentle, consistent curiosity. Pause and observe. Is my current transmission unified, or is it scattered? Am I operating from my core truth, or am I putting on a social performance? Do I feel physically expansive, or am I currently contracted in defense? When you inevitably detect a moment of dissonance, artificiality, or contraction, your sole task is to pivot back. Do this without a single ounce of self-condemnation. Do not dramatically mourn that you have failed. Pivot with the graceful, warm, practiced ease of a traveler who simply recognizes the path home. Your sovereign, coherent energy field is your ultimate sanctuary. It is the safest, most comforting home you will ever inhabit. The ongoing practice of a conscious creator is simply the act of returning to that sanctuary 3, 10, or 50 times a day, if the moment requires it. The 3 pillars of auric maintenance. To cement this stability, there are 3 highly reliable, somatic habits you can seamlessly weave into the ordinary rhythm of your day to sustain this quantum coherence. We will look at the first 2 now. 1. Conscious respiration. I am not referring to complicated yogic breathwork. I simply mean anchoring yourself via your breath. Several times a day, deliberately step in and hijack your automatic breathing cycle. Take 3 or 4 inhales that are marginally slower and deeper than your default rhythm. This specific cadence acts as a biological cheat code. It bypasses the conscious brain and directly signals to your nervous system that you are fundamentally secure. It forcefully yanks your awareness out of those looping, anxiety-ridden mental narratives, the ones responsible for generating massive electromagnetic static, and anchors you firmly back into the dense reality of your physical vessel. Just 3 focused breaths, sprinkled casually throughout your day, is entirely sufficient to scrub the foundational root layer of your aura completely clean. 2. Unfiltered emotional allowance. This is the radical commitment to actually experiencing the emotional waves that arise, rather than frantically plastering a socially acceptable mask over them. When a feeling naturally surfaces within your system, grant it absolute permission to exist. Do not forcefully suppress it, and conversely, do not theatrically amplify or wallow in it. Just allow it to breathe. Give your genuine emotional truth the necessary, non-judgmental electromagnetic space to be exactly what it is in that specific moment. By allowing your raw emotions to simply exist without interference, you achieve absolute coherence. This unflinching honesty perfectly clears the middle strata of your aura, ensuring that your genuine energetic signature can transmit outward without a single fraction of distortion. 3. Heart-centered inquiry. The third and final pillar of daily maintenance is the practice of intentional, heart-based inquiry. Once a day, perhaps in the quiet stillness of the early morning, just before sleep, or during an unexpected moment of pause, deliberately drop your awareness down into your chest. Engage directly with the primary electromagnetic engine of your system, your physical heart. You are not consulting your analytical brain for logical strategies. You are asking your energetic center what it undeniably knows to be true. Ask it what frequency it desires to radiate today. Ask it to reveal the unshakable truths about your life's direction and ultimate purpose. Once you ask, you must listen. But do not listen for words or intellectual arguments. Listen with your physical tissues. Pay close attention to the somatic feedback, the undeniable bodily sensation of either deep, expansive resonance or tight, restrictive dissonance that blooms in your chest. Your heart possesses an innate, structural intelligence. Your aura already holds the blueprint. When you consciously align your mental focus with the profound wisdom your biofield already holds, you generate the absolute most powerful, piercingly coherent broadcast your physical vessel is capable of producing. This is the daily devotion of an awakened creator. It is wonderfully simple, deeply anchored in the body, and incredibly effective. Navigating relational turbulence. Now, we must confront a highly sensitive dynamic that arises for virtually every single individual who reaches this stage of their energetic evolution. We have to address the undeniable impact your upgrade has on other people. Specifically, we need to discuss those individuals in your life who were perfectly attuned to your old, diminished signal. Think about the people who bonded with you during your era of dormancy. They built a relationship with the frequency you were transmitting before your transformation. Consequently, they may find this new, brilliantly coherent, and unapologetically powerful version of your field to be deeply disorienting, shocking, and perhaps even highly threatening. This is arguably the most delicate and easily misunderstood phase of auric activation, and it requires careful, grounded navigation. When your electromagnetic architecture permanently upgrades, the people in your orbit absolutely feel it. They might not possess the spiritual vocabulary to explain it consciously, but their central nervous systems immediately detect the massive shift in your output. How they respond to this change is dictated entirely by the current state of their own energy field, the resonance of the growing field. Individuals whose own subtle bodies are actively engaged in growth, those who are moving toward their own internal harmony and elevating their baseline frequency, will naturally respond to your activation with an instant, profound sense of recognition. Their system will feel your upgraded light, and something deep within them will magnetically respond to it. These are the individuals who will suddenly seem to understand you on a profound level, forging deeper connections and showing up in your reality in incredibly meaningful, serendipitous ways. The dissonance of the stagnant field, conversely, Consider the individuals whose energy fields remain locked in stagnation. People whose entire reality is currently upheld by heavy patterns of fear, scarcity, and rigid limitation will experience your sudden brilliance as profound discomfort. They will register a visceral, undeniable sensation that you have fundamentally changed, and their nervous system will reject it. Whether consciously or subconsciously, they will attempt to aggressively drag you back down to your old frequency. They will try to resurrect the former you, the diminished version that their field was comfortably calibrated to handle. I need you to grasp this deeply. This is not malice. This is pure, biological, electromagnetic reality. Your previous chaotic signal perfectly matched their chaotic signal. Your new purified transmission violently clashes with it. The dissonance they are experiencing is physically uncomfortable for them, and their natural survival instinct is to resolve that friction by forcing you to lower your vibration. They will attempt this through subtle criticisms, triggering old guilt complexes, or applying the heavy pressure of outdated expectations regarding how you should behave. The unapologetic stand. Do not, under any circumstances, mistake their discomfort as a valid reason to shrink back into the shadows. Your monumental spiritual and biological activation does not require their permission, nor does it belong to their comfort zone. Your pristine, highly coherent electromagnetic field is absolutely not something to be violently dialed down simply to accommodate the preferences of those who remain addicted to your past incoherence. You must maintain your boundary. You can hold immense warmth and deep compassion for the very real discomfort they are experiencing, but you must do so without a single ounce of apology and without retreating a single inch. The ambient upgrade. Why is holding your ground so vital? Because of the most extraordinary, hidden consequence of a fully activated human aura. It never just affects you. Over time, your unshakable integrity begins to radically alter the fields of everyone around you. The immense coherence you project naturally establishes a localized field effect, a vibrant zone of high-frequency resonance. You do not have to preach, push, or force anyone to evolve. By simply refusing to lower your vibration, your localized energy field acts as a quantum tuning fork. It creates an elevated electromagnetic environment that makes it exponentially easier for the people in your physical proximity to drop their own defenses and finally access their own highest frequency. You make healing more accessible, more natural, and much easier to find, simply by existing in your truth. The ultimate service. Becoming a catalyst. This brings us to the ultimate, perhaps most beautiful truth about your awakened energetic state. The absolute greatest gift you can possibly offer the people in your life is not a highly polished, socially acceptable, improved version of your personality. Your ultimate gift is the raw, unflinching, fiercely coherent broadcast of your unmasked soul. By refusing to dim your light, you automatically generate a localized field of truth. Within this pristine energetic environment, you inadvertently provide the people around you with the exact vibrational support they need to finally discover who they actually are. This is the true definition of being a conscious radiator within your relationships. Your responsibility is never to meticulously manage your own wattage, just to coddle the insecurities of the people around you. Your singular duty is to blaze with your full, magnificent intensity, holding absolute trust in the universal law of resonance. The individuals who are destined to evolve alongside you will naturally rise to meet your light. And what of the others? The ones whose current, fear-based frequency is simply too discordant to tolerate your new brilliance. They will naturally, organically drift away. You do not need to harshly reject them, and you certainly should not mourn their departure as a personal failure. This is merely the quantum matrix flawlessly executing a reorganization protocol based on your upgraded signal. You must recognize that this spatial reorganization is universally benevolent. It is always, without exception, orchestrated for your absolute highest good and fundamentally for theirs as well. Have absolute faith in your field. Trust the meticulous mechanics of this universal sorting process. Understand deeply that whatever falls away from your perimeter was never designed to survive at your new altitude. And, even more beautifully, trust that whatever is currently magnetizing toward you is exactly what the universe always intended for you to experience. The Chameleon's Burden. The story of Theo. To perfectly illustrate the sheer physics of this relational shift, allow me to introduce you to a man named Theo. For the first 40 years of his existence on this planet, Theo operated as a master of energetic camouflage. He was agonizingly careful with his inner light. As a child, he was raised in an environment that was deeply threatened by his innate magnitude, his natural baseline of boundless enthusiasm, electric joy, and radiant certainty routinely made his caretakers and peers acutely uncomfortable. Through repetitive social conditioning, his vibrant luminescence wasn't necessarily crushed with cruelty, but it was systematically, consistently shamed and suffocated. Theo internalized a devastating lesson very early on. The safest, most lovable iteration of himself was a muted, heavily diluted, deeply managed fraction of his true capacity. He learned that survival required him not to take up too much electromagnetic real estate. Over the decades, he became a virtuoso at this self-betrayal. He developed a hyper-vigilant ability to scan the emotional temperature of any room he entered, instantly calibrating his own energetic output to match whatever the crowd deemed acceptable. He was an expert at making himself electromagnetically digestible. By every conventional societal metric, Theo's strategy worked perfectly. He built a respectable career, maintained a wide circle of friends, and navigated the physical world without ever causing a ripple of friction. As people frequently told him, he was incredibly easy to be around. Yet, beneath the agreeable surface, Theo was slowly suffocating. He was functioning, but he was absolutely not alive. He carried a massive, suppressed frequency within his chest, a staggering depth of untamed vitality and organic brilliance that he had kept locked in a psychological vault for his entire adult life. He didn't necessarily fear his own power. He had simply been brainwashed into believing that the world was far too fragile to handle it. The dam breaks when camouflage fails. When Theo entered his early 40s, his period of energetic dormancy arrived, but it manifested uniquely. For him, this upgrade was not characterized by frantic striving or desperate seeking. It was defined by a profound, systemic shutdown of his ability to hide. His lifelong habit of meticulous, energetic management simply broke. It ceased to function, quietly and completely. He suddenly found himself physically incapable of reading a room and shrinking to fit it. The suppressed frequency within his core had grown too massive, too relentless, and too authentically alive to be crammed back into the tiny, polite, socially acceptable box he had built for it. The dam holding back his life force was cracking. For a man who had survived by remaining unseen, this loss of control was absolutely terrifying. Yet, it was undeniably the most critical, life-altering event of his entire earthly incarnation. What was forcefully breaking through the surface, insisting on being felt, broadcast, and recognized, was his genuine auric blueprint. It was the unadulterated electromagnetic signature of the man he actually was, finally stripped of 4 decades of people-pleasing, micromanagement, and polite self-erasure. The true signal and the improbable reality, when Theo finally surrendered not in a blaze of heroic glory, but simply because he lacked the sheer physical energy to compress his soul for one more second. The sky did not fall. The apocalypse he had always feared did not happen. Yes, certain people in his life were immediately agitated by his new boundaries. A handful of long-standing relationships fractured. Certain social circles and professional environments that had previously felt comfortably numb suddenly felt unbearably restrictive, and he found himself naturally walking away from them without needing to agonizingly debate the decision. But then, the most spectacular phenomenon occurred. People began to truly find him. And I do not mean they found the carefully curated, polite, easygoing persona he had always projected. They found him, the raw, unfiltered, breathtaking frequency of the real Theo. Individuals whose own energy fields were perfectly harmonized with his authentic signature began materializing in his daily life with a frequency that felt completely improbable. He suddenly found himself engaged in conversations that plummeted into profound depths faster than any shallow dialogue he had managed over the past 20 years. Career opportunities and synchronicities fell into his lap that were uncannily tailored to his actual passions and native genius, rather than his fabricated resume. The quantum web had been patiently starving, waiting decades to receive his genuine transmission. The very millisecond he ripped off the mask and allowed his true radiance to flood the field, the universe eagerly and immediately began constructing a masterpiece of a reality around it. The blueprint of the sovereign soul. Theo's journey is not just a personal anecdote. It is the universal blueprint. It is the exact trajectory of every single individual who has successfully navigated the agonizing corridor of energetic hibernation and emerged with their biological field operating at maximum capacity. Let this truth anchor into your bones. The physical world has absolutely zero use for your heavily sanitized, electromagnetically polite, carefully managed signal. What the universe desperately requires, what the quantum fabric has been starving to receive, is the blinding, coherent, unapologetic truth of your raw signature. Now, we must address what happens on the other side of this threshold. I need to be excruciatingly clear about the landscape you are currently stepping into. The successful activation of your energetic architecture is absolutely not the finish line of your spiritual evolution. It is the starting gun of an entirely unprecedented paradigm. The journey you are embarking on now is qualitatively and fundamentally distinct from everything you have previously endured. This is not because your future will be entirely devoid of friction, though in many profound ways, life will become beautifully fluid, but because you are now commanding your reality from an entirely different seat of power. The shift from observer to projector. Before your system booted into full capacity, you lived like a scavenger. You navigated your existence from the desperate posture of someone trying to extract the life they wanted from an unyielding universe. You tirelessly hunted for the perfect methodology, the ultimate manifestation technique, and the exact ratio of hustle to surrender that would finally force the physical world to yield the results you craved. To use the physics framework we have established, you were staring helplessly at a movie screen, desperately trying to manipulate the images projected onto it. Following your activation, you have permanently relocated. You are now navigating existence from the sovereign realization that you are the projector. You are the living source code from which the physical imagery assembles itself. Your job is no longer to fight the screen or painstakingly organize the external puzzle pieces. Your sole responsibility is to ruthlessly protect the pristine clarity, the raw authenticity, and the immense wattage of your internal transmission. Once you secure that, you must completely trust that the quantum matrix will dutifully and mathematically organize the physical reality to match it. Retiring the old curriculum, this elevated operational mode demands an entirely revamped toolkit. The skills you relied upon previously are no longer relevant. Think about the curriculum of your dormancy era. That brutal training phase taught you sheer energetic grit. It taught you how to blindly hold onto a high vibration when your physical reality offered absolutely zero validation. It forced you to maintain internal harmony, while the external world was collapsing in chaos. It trained you to tirelessly broadcast your light into the void, having no idea if a single soul was capable of receiving it. You passed that grueling test. You mastered the darkness. That is the exact reason you are standing here today, with a fully ignited aura, the toolkit of the conscious creator. The skills required for this new, activated phase are the mechanics of deliberate, conscious creation. You must now master the agility of awareness, knowing your own baseline signal so intimately that you can instantly detect the millisecond it splinters into static or contraction, the grace of the return. The emotional reflexes to course correct back into harmony rapidly, effortlessly, and most importantly without wasting a single ounce of energy on toxic self-judgment, the courage of authenticity, the absolute refusal to broadcast a theatrical performance. opting instead for pure, unfiltered truth. The surrender of micromanagement, relinquishing your addiction to controlling exactly how and when the universe delivers your desires, trusting entirely in the physics of quantum resonance. Underpinning all of this is the ultimate cosmic realization. You do not merely possess a light. You are not a regular person who can temporarily access a mystical glow under perfect meditative conditions. You are the light. Your electromagnetic envelope, your personal, biological quantum transmission tower, is not a detachable accessory. It isn't something you can carelessly lose, misplace, or permanently break. It is the fundamental, inescapable reality of your presence in this dimension. You cannot ever turn the broadcast off. Your only choice is whether you transmit by design or by default, in crystalline harmony or in chaotic static, in sovereign truth or suffocating camouflage. And in this exact breath, after surviving the alchemical fire, you are actively transmitting with brilliant conscious clarity. Your grid is online. The final inquiry. So, I leave you with a profound inquiry. I implore you to sink deeply into the silence and truly sit with this before you attempt to construct an answer. What exactly does your fully awakened energy field desire to manifest in this physical plane? I am not asking about your societal obligations. I am not asking about the logical 5-year plan your brain has fabricated or the goals you feel you should be working toward. What does your actual humming, coherent electromagnetic signature want to blast into the ether? What specific caliber of reality does it wish to participate in building? What transformative, magnetic ripple effect does it want to imprint upon the nervous systems of everyone it encounters? This is the defining mandate of your newly activated existence. Your aura already holds the exact coordinates. You simply must tune in. Drop your awareness out of the loud, frantic chatter of your analytical mind. Anchor it deeply into the vast, silent intelligence of your heart center, and simply feel. Unleashing the ultimate signal. What specific vision is begging to be transmitted into the ether? What magnificent creation is waiting to be birthed through your entirely unique, utterly irreplaceable energetic signature? Allow that vision to rise to the surface. And when it finally breaches your conscious mind, do not shrink it to make it socially digestible. Let it be overwhelmingly vast. Let it be tangibly real. Allow it to be as intensely, fiercely, and unapologetically radiant as your newly upgraded architecture can physically sustain. You must remember the cardinal rule of your new reality. The quantum fabric of the universe simply ignores meek, heavily sanitized, and excessively polite requests. It only bows and responds to massive, coherent, wildly authentic transmissions. Your biofield is now fully primed for exactly this magnitude. So, demand the space you inherently deserve. Let your broadcast be colossal. Let it be raw. Let it be undeniably yours. The cosmic ripple effect. I must emphasize the profound gravity of this precise juncture in your timeline. The fact that your aura has successfully finalized its rigorous upgrade cycle and booted into this peak operational frequency extends far beyond your personal evolution. This is an event of literal, cosmic significance. I am not speaking in terms of inflated spiritual grandiosity. I am speaking in strict terms of quantum mechanics. When a single human electromagnetic matrix achieves a state of absolute, unified coherence, it generates a profound ripple effect throughout the entire cosmic web. A fully awakened, intensely authentic human aura acts as one of the most potent anchors of harmony on this physical planet. It automatically projects an immense radius of high-frequency order, fundamentally altering the probability waves of everything it touches. To put it plainly, your radiant integrity practically guarantees that the individuals caught in your gravitational pull will find it infinitely easier to access their own latent harmony. The physical environments you occupy will inevitably bend toward greater organization, clarity, and elevated vibrations. Because of your localized broadcast, the quantum field is mathematically compelled to orchestrate collective experiences rooted in sovereign truth, deep connection, and expansive vitality, effectively starving out the dense, heavy frequencies of terror, scarcity, and victimhood, igniting the collective grid. You are no longer merely sculpting a private, isolated reality. You are now an active architect of the shared dimensional space we all occupy. Every single time a human being successfully turns on their light and steps into their true power, it actively lowers the atmospheric resistance for the next person to do exactly the same. Perfect coherence is wildly contagious. When a critical mass of individuals constantly transmits from this sovereign state, their combined electromagnetic force physically alters the fundamental probability structure of our collective global reality. This is not a fuzzy, distant utopian hope. This is consciousness-driven quantum physics applied on a macro scale. You are an integral part of this massive shift now. Your energetic activation is no longer just about improving your personal life. It is about stabilizing the collective grid, and the grid desperately requires your illumination. The power of shared resonance. If these concepts have catalyzed a visceral reaction within your tissues, if your energetic perimeter vibrated in recognition at any point during our journey, or if that undeniable, buzzing warmth bloomed steadily in your chest, I urge you to pass this specific transmission along to someone whose internal flame requires tending. I also invite you to return to this message during moments of profound stillness. Let it wash over you in the quiet isolation of dawn, or in those liminal moments just before sleep, when your subconscious is exceptionally porous and the energetic coding can anchor itself the deepest. Understand that when you choose to share this frequency, you are doing far more than passively forwarding a digital video. You are actively initiating the activation of another human being's awareness. Your stabilized signal directly interfaces with their dormant field, gently coaxing it into resonance. This beautiful mutual exchange fortifies and amplifies both of your auras simultaneously. This is the exact mechanism by which global luminescence expands one conscious projector, igniting the next. The anchor, a 3-minute morning protocol. To finalize this phase of our transmission, I want to equip you with a foundational protocol, a permanent somatic habit, to ensure you continuously return to the reality of your own magnitude. Tomorrow morning, before you do absolutely anything else, before your eyes inevitably snap to the glowing screen of your phone, before you tackle the mundane logistics of your schedule, and long before your anxious mind begins generating a frantic list of potential daily catastrophes, gift yourself 3 uninterrupted minutes. Merely 3 minutes. Anchor downward. Direct your absolute focus downward into your chest, right into the biological engine room that has tirelessly generated your electromagnetic pulse since before you took your first breath. Feel the field. Physically sense the heat accumulating there. Feel the undeniable, thrumming aliveness, and visualize your expansive field pushing outward into the room in a massive, luminous sphere. Command the broadcast. From this deeply anchored, physically felt awareness, consciously program your transmission for the next 24 hours. Do not achieve this by mentally plotting out the specific events you hope will miraculously happen. Achieve this by entirely saturating your body with the exact emotional frequency you intend to project. Choose the specific caliber of presence you demand to embody. Decide, in that quiet moment, the exact energetic footprint you will leave in every single room you enter, every conversation you engage in, and every single timeline you touch today. Your light is officially on. Go broadcast it, embodying the frequency, the daily walk. Allow that chosen sensation to completely saturate your physical tissues. Claim it as your absolute reality. Make it undeniably yours, anchored deep within your bones. Once you have locked that state into your nervous system, rise and step into the chaos of your day, actively projecting that exact vibration. I must be clear, you will not execute this flawlessly every single second. You will face unexpected interruptions, frustrations will arise, and your frequency will occasionally wobble. That is perfectly acceptable. The goal of this practice is not to achieve an unbroken, robotic state of perfection. The goal is relentless, conscious intention. You must move through the world with the active, waking realization that you are a walking, breathing transmitter of raw quantum energy. Never forget the ultimate physical law of your existence. Whatever frequency you consistently emit, the physical universe has absolutely no choice but to faithfully construct itself around. The discipline of the awakened creator. This is the fundamental daily devotion of a fully activated radiator. It only requires 3 dedicated minutes every single morning. 3 minutes of actively returning to the sanctuary of your own energetic perimeter, deliberately tuning your internal dial and setting your broadcast before the external world attempts to set it for you. By doing this, you stride into your waking life no longer as a passive victim of random circumstances, but as the incredibly coherent, profoundly intentional, and fully actualized electromagnetic powerhouse you have officially become. This tiny, quiet, daily commitment is the only requirement necessary to sustain the massive biological and spiritual upgrade you have just undergone. It is the simple, unbreakable key to ensuring your brilliance never fades back into the shadows. The eternal flame. Let me leave you with one final, irrefutable truth. Your light is officially turned on. But frankly, it has always been burning. Even in your darkest, heaviest, and most confusing chapters, you have been radiating an undeniable, magnificent glow. The spark was never extinguished. You simply did not possess the conscious lens required to recognize your own staggering magnitude until this exact moment. The next step, understanding the incubation. If this journey has ignited a fire within your chest, and you feel an undeniable magnetic pull to dive even deeper into the operational mechanics of your own biomagnetic field, I highly encourage you to explore our comprehensive breakdown of the energetic dormancy cycle. In that exploration, we meticulously dissect the hidden physics of how your aura violently purifies and recalibrates itself during those agonizing periods of isolation, darkness, and apparent stagnation. Grasping the complete mechanics of that silent incubation phase will radically transform the way you navigate the rest of your awakened life. That specific transmission is already prepared, loaded, and patiently waiting for you. Trust that your newly upgraded energy field already knows exactly how to absorb and integrate it.